Just start recording. There we go. Da 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 da. Hey, it's Corran in the morning. I know I don't really do that many shows, and the show's not super active right now. But wanted to do this, having kind of a creative episode or something. Had an idea. Basically wanted to do a video. I know a little bit about the deck, Court of the Vile Gangster. I've been playing it a lot over the last 6 years or 20 years or something like that. And I went through every single alien, and I made a list of them, and I'm going to talk about every single alien and whether or not they fit in a court deck. Not every single alien that could be considered, that you should be thinking about when you're building a court deck. I'm not going to I don't know. I'm just going to talk about them and see how this goes. Okay, so Aemon Gremm with Percussive Cannon. He's probably not going to make the deck. I think this was designed for more for Shadow Collective. There's a lot of virtual cards that come out that are, dark side aliens, and I'm like, ooh, this is a neat dark side alien. And then I read it and it's like, oh, this is more for Shadow Collective. I think I have messed around with it a little bit when trying to play just all the permanent weapons in court. So that's a possibility. Also, a leader, is fun, and he can hit with the permanent weapon, but probably not going to make the list. Ak-rev is a musician, and I don't know anything about the court musicians deck, really. It's not something I know a lot of, but basically, if you're building the court musicians deck, you play all the musicians. So Arica, versions of, these are two versions of Mara Jade. You're probably going to be playing one of the other Mara Jades, but, they can be fun. These guys, they can be, you might read through them and think about what you're trying to do with the deck and consider them, but probably not. Aurra Sing, you're probably playing Aurra with Blaster, but again, she does some cool stuff, stealing lightsabers. She's an ability for Bounty Hunter, pulled by Hondo Anaka, who you're probably also playing. Again, Aurra with Blaster is better, but I play 2x Aurra with Blaster sometimes, not usually, but sometimes. So she's really huge. Good for targeting Jedi, but just drawing a destiny, firing a gun. Sometimes you can job us through with her, and that's pretty great. Bala-Tik, this guy from episode 7. I don't usually play him, but he is a leader, so keep that in mind. You can be pulled with Twi'lek Advisor Virtual and everything, does Jabba the Hutt still care about leaders? Jabba the Hutt doesn't care about leaders anymore, but he used to, so that used to be something to consider. And if you're playing, and if Solo is super prominent in the meta, he's kind of relevant. Because he can't add Battle Destiny or play from the thing. Bane Malar, fun little ability for Bounty Hunter. If you're looking for another ability for Bounty Hunter, maybe he has some complicated game text. He's one that I have thrown in when I want a more fun version of court. My head is getting hit with the green screen filter. I really wish that I understood how to use green screens better. But anyway, so that's gonna happen throughout the recording. There's gonna be little bits and pieces of me that disappear because I don't know how to use green screen. So if anybody knows how to use green screen and wants to teach me how to do it right, then go for it. But anyway, yeah, probably not going to make your list. He costs 4 with a forfeit of 3, so there's just more efficient. Even with the forfeit of 5, there's more efficient bounty hunters. Barquin D'an is a musician, probably only going to go in the musician's deck. If that. Again, I don't know how the musician's deck works. I'm already yawning, and I'm only in the Bs. That's pretty bad. Okay, so Bib Fortuna, you got 3 choices here. You got the Reflections 3 Bib, you got the new Bib, and you got the Fat Bib. Fat Bib tends to go more in my kind of scum, but adding to force drains and adding an attrition destiny sometimes is something of note. 4 is a lot for an ability 1 character. I really like the new Bib. He sort of facilitates this pull chain where he gets pulled by Power of the Hutt, then he pulls No Bargain, and No Bargain pulls Salacious Crumb. The cards kind of that whole pull chain kind of works together to shore up your mains matchup pretty nicely. And of course you've got the Reflections 3 Bib as well, who doesn't get that pull chain, but he's got 1 more power. Both of these guys are great with Jabba because Reflections 3 is power 6, and then Jabba doubles it, and then Bib Fortuna will be power 5, and then Jabba doubles it. Black Krrsantan, when he first came out, I tried him in a deck. I like that he gets the Vibro Axe, and he's got the opponent has 4 more characters present clause, which is good when you're playing against a meta with lots of Doom stacks. So Boba Fett, you've got 3 choices. You've got that are, there's other versions of Boba Fett obviously, but realistically you're either playing Virtual Cloud City Boba Fett with Blaster Rifle, or Boba Fett Bounty Hunter. I think most people end up with Boba Fett Bounty Hunter. I know some people will play the Cloud City Boba Fett. The ability to exchange a card in hand with a card in reserve is very powerful, although he tends to be more seen in CCT. And then Boba Fett, I really like the Boba Fett with Blaster Rifle. I think he's underrated, and probably just because Boba Fett Bounty Hunter is so good, but Boba Fett Bounty Hunter is kind of a glass cannon. People can play perimeter scan, and then he just sits there. He doesn't draw Destiny on his own. He only draws if with your Alien or Imperial. He adds 1 with your Alien and Imperial, or adds 2 with your Bounty Hunter or Vader. But sometimes he can end up being there stuck alone. Sometimes he's got maintenance, so that causes problems. But Boba Fett with Blaster Rifle, he can randomly have the 1-2 punch of hidden weapons plus capturing a guy, which is pretty crazy. And then just, being able to shoot it. I mean, shooting it +2 is pretty good. Unless they're a Jedi, there's a pretty good chance you'll hit. But that's... that's what you probably are thinking about between those 2. Also, if you care about proxies, Boba Fett with Blaster Rifle is a lot more affordable. Bossk, you probably aren't playing Bossk with Mortar Gun. You might, if you can fit him in your deck, if you're worried about smugglers, or Watch Your Step in particular, which Watch Your Step is sometimes a pretty good matchup for Court, so I don't know if you necessarily need him, but he's definitely an option there. Deploy 3, forfeit 5, which means in this deck he deploys for 2 and forfeit 7. That's pretty good. Bossk with Mortar Gun. It's kind of neat that he can capture a guy, and I've seen kind of. We'll say more casual players will float him in the deck, but I've not seen. He kind of feels like a trap. Cad Bane is one of my favorite bounty hunters. He's the card that was my Hollow Theater Heroes card, so obviously I'm a big fan. Beefs up your other bounty hunters, and also he's one of a handful of answers to Jedi, because Jedi can really be difficult for bounty hunters for court, but turning off a Jedi's immunity to attrition is huge, so you're almost certainly playing him. Chall Bekan is somebody that I have played when I'm playing a lot of Twi'lek Advisors. Probably he's not somebody that I would probably play now. If there's ever a good non-unique alien, then I think he has a pretty good shot at making the list. But right now there's just not a non-unique alien worth playing. It is kind of fun making your aliens deploy an additional -1. I think he's probably in like a non-virtual format. He would be a pretty close to an auto-include, but I don't know the non-virtual court decks that well. Chalk is another one that sort of, I feel like he's like a 65th card for me sometimes. Like I don't know when the last time he actually made a court deck, but I went out of my way to buy him as a single, because I was considering putting him in enough court decks. His big thing is that your characters present can't have their forfeits reduced, which in a meta, if there's a meta where you're seeing a lot of forfeit 0 blasters, that can be or weapons, that can be a pretty big thing. Dannik Jerriko is another one of those that probably fits more in a Shadow Collective deck. If you were doing some kind of blaster sub theme, maybe consider him, but he's probably not going to make a court deck. Danz Borin is interesting. He's in Chris Kelly's list. There's a number of these. I haven't memorized Chris Kelly's list, but Chris Kelly has a list that he's been playing where he basically, anytime there was a fork in the road between him and me, he took the other way, and I took one way, he took the other way. So he plays Danz Borin. He adds to the, it's nice, he adds to the force drain in space, which is really nice. Adding to the force drain, making Nal Hutta a force drain of 2 seems really good. Because a lot of times because you got space in the deck, you're gonna put some ships there, and you're gonna be using that to satisfy battle order. And you're probably draining for 1 all game. Draining for 2 all game is pretty fun. And you're probably winning in space if they're coming after you, or at least you're forcing them to devote resources there. So I don't know. It's so hard to put new cards in my court deck, just because I've been playing. I've been basically developing the deck since I got back into the game in 2019. I haven't really started from scratch with a court deck. Duro, key card if you're playing droids, any droids at all. The biggest thing is he helps to find Guri, so you can get Guri and Stinger. If you can get Guri and Stinger, then she basically wins space on her own. And then so Dengar V. Dengar, he's another one that doesn't quite make the list. If you were gonna do a capturing variant, he might make the list, but yeah, he's not quite. Especially because Dengar with Blaster Carbine, make sure you're playing the virtual version. Is strictly better. Can be key. Also, Dengar's ship, Dengar in punishing one, can be key depending on the way you're building your deck. Djas Puhr used to be very important because he protects you against Leia Rebel Princess. But now that Leia Rebel Princess gets blocked by Power of the Hutt, he's much less important. I never really find him worth it, but I think I still see him sometimes. He's gonna have some pretty good forfeit and some pretty good power and defense value. But he's a Destiny 1, and even though Court has bad destinies, you got to be a really good card to justify the Destiny 1. Court has lots of like 2s and 3s, which if you're drawing multiple destinies definitely add up. And then we've got another musician who's a musician. I don't know what he does. Chelly Afra is one that if you're playing a few droids, like if you're playing if you're playing Probot and IG-88 and Guri and Forlom with concussion rifle and P-59, that's 5 droids. She's probably worth it. She also is a spy, so sometimes you can just drop her late game. She hasn't made my list in a while, but again, probably maybe should. She makes other people's lists. So Dr. Evazin versus Dr. E and Ponda B, and I'll talk about Ponda Baba too. So because Ponda Baba Virtual is so good, sometimes you just play the non-combo Dr. Evazin. He also he operates, obviously, Dr. Evazin operates, makes people, he's a classic card. He, unlike the combo, he can operate when you play disarmed. So you can play disarmed and then immediately operate on somebody, which is pretty cool. But and then obviously Ponda Baba adds that attrition destiny. I find I have been for the last year or so I've been playing Dr. Evazin and Ponda Baba, the combo, just because that power 6 is more than 2 or 3, and a lot of times you just need a dude that draws a destiny if your opponent's spreading, and just one more character that draws destiny on their own is pretty good. And they still, hold a site well with Mara or something like that. Did I just... No, I didn't kill them. Okay, hopefully I didn't just remove a card from the list, but whatever. Dryden Vos, when he first came out, he made my list. Again, like leader, and maybe gangster is relevant sometimes. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think he makes the list now. He's got that Terrace Kazi 5. Yeah, unless you're playing like again, he's a Shadow Collective character. Ephant Mon can be really key, like against at least he used to be good against No Idea. I don't know if No Idea has done a ton, but he's a he's a built-in Gick if you got him with Jabba, which is really nice. And then yeah, he makes it so that spies, gamblers, and thieves can't deploy to the same site. But I think maybe I'll come back. Let me look that up real fast. Okay, well, hopefully I edit that. I did look up the data vault. Ephant Mon's game text is canceled there, so you can't deploy him to the data vault. But against No Idea, but still, he hasn't made my list in a while, but keep in mind he's somebody to keep in mind in certain metas. Feltipern Trevagg is one that I like, and I don't think a lot of people play. He makes it more expensive to initiate battles, and he is a bounty hunter. So a cheap bounty hunter, deploy 1, forfeit 5. In a pinch, he can sort of you can deploy him on like an early turn with Jabba to the audience chamber, and then make it just a little bit harder for your opponent to initiate battle against you or deploy as many guys. A lot of the early game with Court, especially against like especially against a mains deck or a deck that's gonna come after you, is just about like slowing your opponent down just a little bit, just like a turn or two, so that you can develop your hand enough and get your activation up enough that you can go after them, either solidify the audience chamber so they're not going to come after you, or do a big counter beat if they do come after you. And Feltipern Trevagg is a Destiny 4 little guy that does that, especially like when I've played decks that where I wanted to have as many characters as I could, either for a challenge reason or for a strategic reason. Fennec Shand, she's pretty neat. So she gets, she draws on her own, and let's see. Is that all she does? Oh, she used to. Maybe it was like a playtest version or something. She took no battle damage. But yeah, she. I guess obviously she hasn't made my list in a while. But yeah, she's she's fine. Galed, I just feel like I should mention him. He adds to 4 strains at he's at the audience chamber. He's a really neat card, but isn't going to make the list. Gamall Wironicc, why on earth is he even being considered? What does he do? Oh, okay. So he makes it so that your other characters present can't be targeted by weapons. That is definitely a theme of support characters in court. You want to, you don't want them. You got some guys that are just there to soak up damage, and you got other guys that are there to actually do stuff. Yeah, so he's sort of another tempo card, because if you got, him and Jabba at the site, and they have to target him, so they hit him, and then you can forfeit Jabba, or maybe you don't crack Jabba's immunity or something like that. But he kind of protects your more scary guys. Jabba's a bad example. Maybe Lady Proxima. Gar Saxon has definitely been in my deck before. He's got that opponent has more characters than you. Opponent loses 2 force, and also makes the Jedi their defense value -1. So that's he's a fun card. But I think there's better options. Gardulla the Hutt. I was just reading it and I was like, why does nobody play this card? That's kind of neat. Opponent draws you make your opponent draw a destiny, and if the destiny is above 2, you retrieve a force. Otherwise, the opponent loses a force. That's kind of a neat. That's kind of a neat little ability. And then, yeah, if you're playing pod racing, you can retrieve your stuff into hand. That's pretty cool. But yeah, nobody plays this card. Ghana Gleamort is this is another one that like other people play this card a lot, and I don't really. He's kind of good in situations where you have to abandon the audience chamber, but you can still hold the pit or an adjacent site, so you can reduce that force drain at the audience chamber. Sometimes like they kick you off the audience chamber, and then they've got like Luke with a lightsaber there, and then it's a drain of 3. There's not enough battlegrounds to satisfy ultimatum, so he can be pretty good. The problem is, if you get kicked off the audience chamber and you can't come back to it pretty fast, you probably lost the game anyway. And if you're not in that situation, I'd rather have another good character. Power 5 for 4 deploy, because it will be 4 deploy if you lose Scum and Villainy. is with 3 forfeit is just not quite good enough. I've had a lot. I actually have tried to play this guy, and I have had a lot of situations where I was like, this is not. I wish I was. I am angry that this card is in my hand. Which that's the biggest way to get a card removed from my deck, is if when I'm playing it, more than once, and I'm angry that the card is in my hand. Gar Korsh, an Abyssin. What does he do? So he's like a meta card. Opponent may not cancel your battle destiny draws where you have a gangster or non-maintenance bounty hunter. When deployed, may deploy a mercenary here, which I don't think the deploy a mercenary thing is super relevant. Of note, if you're playing him with Boba Fett bounty hunter and you have another bounty hunter, so you're getting the extra 2 destiny from Boba Fett, that counts. So like if you have Greedo and Boba Fett bounty hunter and Gar Koresh all at the same site, they can't cancel your battle destinies. They can still limit your battle destinies, but they can't cancel them. Greedo is another musician. So Greedo is like one of the most important cards in the deck. He is, for such a random bounty hunter that just gets killed. Although he is one of the only bounty hunters that's named during the original Star Wars trilogy, so maybe that's why he's so important. But his job is to die. Basically, he's a forfeit 6 for 1 deploy in this deck. He deploys as a react. So they battle you, you drop him, and then he's just there to, get shot or whatever. He makes your opponent use a force to fire a weapon at the same site, which is really huge because your opponent could, may not have that, because you might be surprising them when you drop them. But also, Court also plays Battle Order and Battle Order and First Strike, the Battle Order combo card. Court also plays the Battle Order combo card, which means that if you're offensively battling, your opponent has to pay every time they play an interrupt. So they have to pay for the interrupt. They have to pay for Greedo to shoot. So sometimes they were maybe saving that force for the Gick, hoping they'd be able to get a shot in, or they have the force. They have the they have the force for the barrier, but then they can't get a shot in, or some combination of things. It just it taxes your opponent a little bit, in a pretty important way. Grumgar, I think Chris Kelly plays this card. And you'd have to ask him why he's any good. I guess he's power 6. And there are a couple of information brokers, I think, in your deck. So you can add 1 destiny to total power. I think Chris Kelly plays him, but I don't. Hondo Inaka is great. One of my favorite leaders to pull with the what is it? Jabba Space Cruiser. Jabba Space Cruiser pulls a leader when he gets deployed, and he's a great one. Because you don't mind him being in space. He's forfeit 5, which isn't great, but he can deploy Aurra Sing he can deploy Aurra, Slave 1, or a Kawakian, which is of course what's his name? Salacious Crumb. But yeah, like you're usually pulling Aurra with him. he's a good solid alien. He draws on his own. Just a really solid. I'm never unhappy to draw him. Hydrogen engineer, Hilo Bond engineer, enforcer, not engineer. Has a permanent, is a non-unique with a permanent weapon, which is something. But yeah, probably maybe Shadow Collective, or if you're doing a permanent weapon sub theme. Okay. So let's talk about Jabba. We got Jabba the Celiac Tiru, we got Jabba the Hutt, we got Jabba the Hutt Virtual, and Mighty Jabba over here. So Jabba is kind of interesting. I've definitely seen people try pretty much all of these in various contexts. You're usually going to end up with Jabba the Hutt Virtual, but Special Edition Jabba is kind of neat because your aliens are deploy an additional -1. So you can make, make a -2, maybe make a -3 with Chall Bekan. Deciliac Tiru is pod racy stuff. I don't think I've ever seen him played. Original Jabba the Hutt. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think what deck I've seen him in. Maybe CCT. But he's kind of neat. Adds additional 1 to the forfeit of the aliens. So if you have another way of getting scum and villainy out, making your aliens extra, giving your aliens some extra forfeit is fun. But Jabba the Hutt Virtual, he doubles another alien's power. He downloads scum and villainy, and he's got some token immunity and can retrieve Salacious Crumb. But mainly he downloads scum and villainy. You're basically using your audience chamber pull at the beginning of the game. As long as he's there, you check it with something else. But as long as he's there, 99 out of 100 games, unless he's in your hand, you're going to download him and then use him to download scum and villainy. There's an argument for deploying scum and villainy from hand if you have it, and downloading Lady Proxima, which I kind of go back and forth on, because if you can back up Lady Proxima, or if you have a barrier or something, but she is just very fragile, and you want her in a spot where you're getting her 3 aliens a turn every turn for as much of the game as you can. You want her to survive. You don't want her to be an early target. And frankly, once Jabba hits the table and pulls scum, that's all you need from him. Jango Fett is great. Adds with opponent's Jedi, maintenance, or permanent weapon card. Adds a Battle Destiny and can upload a Boba Fett when he dies. He's going to be in the deck 100%. Deploy 3, forfeit 8 in this deck is pretty great. And he can be targeted by hidden weapons. He does everything that you want. Probably only playing 1 copy, but if you played 2 copy, I wouldn't question you. Jodo Cast also can be targeted by hidden weapons, and sometimes he kind of goes in and out. I've seen people play him with the Mos Eisley Blaster that already adds 2 to the shot, so he's adding 4 to the shot, targeting for free, and bouncing a card into the hand. Is pretty cool. Kid Keedcack, I mean, he's power 8. What more can you say? No, don't play him. Lady Proxima is the engine of the deck. Probably the reason that the deck is powerful. If you can get Lady Proxima, you are filtering your deck every turn, trying to find aliens. So it's not only card advantage of getting the cards into your hand, but you're also removing those characters from your deck, leaving only the higher destiny interrupts, which is like freaking huge. Sometimes I pull her with Jabba's Space Cruiser. Like, you want to try to get her out, and you want to try to be able to protect her if you can. Cat walking across the video. Another musician. Lin May makes Boba Fett deploy for free. So I've seen people play her in a non-musician's deck, but usually you're just playing her in a musician's deck. So Mara, you're almost always playing Mara with lightsaber. I play double Mara with lightsaber pretty consistently. You could make an argument for the Emperor's Hand if you want to pull her lightsaber, or especially I've heard an argument for like starting You'll Be Dead over one of the other starting effects, and having her pull a blaster, uploading her with your audience chamber pull, have her pull a blaster and get that You'll Be Dead ping going really fast. But yeah, you're almost always just playing that. Margot was one that I was really excited about because I hated Probot as a way to break the cover of opponent's undercover spy. But she's bad. Mercenary Pilot. Okay. So if you are playing Jabba's sail barge and you're playing Chall Bekan and need leaders for whatever reason, he's definitely a non-unique that you could consider. He adds a destiny when he's driving a transport vehicle, so not the worst thing in the world. Mighty Jabba adds a battle destiny with your alien leader, but he doesn't pull Scum and Villainy, so you're probably not playing him in this deck. But he's probably like in, I don't know, I think CCT. Mithron Rodo. Always this is like the definition of a 61st card for me. He's real good. There have been times that he was always in my deck, but yeah, I mean, unless you're worried about starship weapons, or maybe like a move, or you think you can take advantage of the move phase text, he's just not quite like. If he was ability 4, I think he would make the list. He just doesn't quite. Ortug is another. He's a permanent weapon character, so if you're trying to get, like, if you're playing a Crossfire version of the deck, maybe, but yeah, probably doesn't. Outer Rim Scout. I don't think he's quite as good as Mercenary Pilot, but again, there just isn't really a non-unique that I would play in the deck. So, but like, I think I've played him as a target for Chall Bekan when I've played Chall Bekan in the past, but just not quite. We already talked about Ponda Baba. Ponda Baba is real good if you're one, and so you just have to decide whether you want to do him or the combo. Prince Shizor is great. One of the pretty much an auto include. Draws battle destiny if unable to otherwise, has plenty of power, and sometimes you can get your opponent, you can kind of keep your opponent honest with that total ability of 6 or more. Plus he's got immunity to attrition. Yeah, he's just really solid. Yeah, late game he can hold a sight on his own, and yeah, sometimes you can have him if your opponent has like an ability like a Ray or something. Kira, she's a leader, but again, leaders aren't super important right now in the deck. She can sometimes be a Gick. If she cancels, it could be worse, which is pretty nice. But doesn't quite make it. I think about it because I've been seeing a lot of it could be worse lately. Ritik Hui, he can mess with your opponent's force pile. I think it used to be like something with broken concentration that you would use him. But you know, if you got a spot for him and you want to mess with him, you know, him and Greedo and First Strike, it's not the worst thing in the world, but probably not making the list. This guy's a musician. I don't know why I listed all the musicians. I should have just said all the musicians don't make the list. Reese is, I feel like I'm the only one that doesn't play this guy. He does some stuff. Messes with Clash and Barrier, and then you can do some stuff when you draw a Destiny of 3. Draw the bottom card of used pile, place a card from hand on top of used pile, or activate a force. And he's deploy 2, forfeit 5 in this deck, which is good. But yeah, he doesn't quite do enough for me. Ristal is another musician. Sidon Ethano, I have seen people play. I think Joker King used to play him. Cat's walking by again. Joker King used to play him, and would play the ship. Once per turn, may place opponent's character just lost from here out of play unless opponent loses 1 force. I mean, he's Destiny 4, which is kind of cool, but doesn't quite do it for me. Snuva is a classic, but he just costs a little bit too much. Doesn't do quite enough. He can. Does he do something with the Vibro Axe? Yeah. Yeah. He can download a Vibro Axe and then use it to capture a target. Like he's neat, but he just doesn't. He doesn't quite. Size Noodles and Tech more musicians. Thok and Thug. These guys like are like, I don't know, 70th card. Like they seem like they would be good, but they're just not quite. They're just not quite good. Oompa Stay is another musician. Velkin Tazeri is a really key card. So he Velkin Tazeri is a really key card. He adds to the force strain at the pit, which is huge late game. And sometimes even if you're like a little bit behind, it can be key. He's also one of those guys that just soaks up the damage. Your other characters here may not be targeted by lightsabers, which is pretty cool. Vigo is a Black Sun card. I think he downloads a Battleground. So if you wanted to play a Battleground that you can't play otherwise, I don't know. He's just somebody that sometimes I think about. Woof is key in space, making all your opponents' battle destinies -1. And he's pullable with Ellis and Hinthra. Wooer, I think theoretically there's a Cantina version of this deck, or of Court, that people might play him. Zam Wessel definitely sees some play, but doesn't make my list. She just doesn't quite do enough. The leader just lost from same site, loses 2 force. I don't know that I've ever successfully done that. Part of that might be because I don't remember the text. And whenever she's lost, I don't have a force pile. So the tunnel vision timing is just really bad there. And then Zuckuss. I didn't even remember that there was a virtual Zuckuss. You're probably playing Zuckuss and Mist Hunter, unless you're me, in which case you're playing Zuckuss with Snare Rifle. Which, I really like Zuckuss with Snare Rifle, excluding, and because he targets power, not defense value, so there's a few characters that can kind of be key there. Alright, well that's all I've got. Hopefully this is watchable. The cat is running past me again. Thanks for watching, and until next time, good luck, have fun, and no reverts.